Okay, we are back in session and we'll start right in with 5E, Middlesex County Connect. Cindy, you started on it?
Yes, so thanks for the chair to the committee. So Middlesex County Connect serves a vital inter-community transit service, fostering connectivity among local municipalities within Middlesex County and linking them to the hubs of London, St. Thomas, Woodstock, and Ingersoll. With its $5 one-way fee, Middlesex County Connect aims to make commuting affordable for all residents. Middlesex County Connect buses operate on a fixed route and schedule. These routes include Route 1, which is Lucan, Ilderton, Arva, London, and the return. Route 2 is Woodstock, Ingersoll, Putnam, Dorchester, London, and return. And our third route is Dorchester, London, St. Thomas, Southwold, and return. The service is designed to facilitate convenient travel for seniors, students, youth, workers, and persons with disabilities, allowing them seamless access to amenities in their hometowns and neighboring communities. Residents can access post-secondary institutions, employment, medical appointments, social programs, visit friends and family, and connect with other inter-community transit services and local transit services such as London Transit, Railway City Transit, and Woodstock Transit. Ensuring inclusivity at Middlesex County Connect buses are wheelchair accessible. The features include high floor ramp access, 2 wheelchair spaces, and a wheelchair lift, enhancing mobility for persons with disabilities. Additionally, each bus is equipped with a front-mounted bike rack capable of accommodating up to 2 bikes. Children 5 and under, support persons, and veterans can ride free of charge. I'd like to point out that in April of 2024, Middlesex County launched our Route 3, an inter-community transit route connecting Dorchester, London, and St. Thomas. This route, which includes a stop at the Amazon Fulfillment Center in Southwold, Ontario, has demonstrated strong and consistent ridership growth, highlighting significant demand for connectivity between these communities. The Middlesex County Connect Intercommunity Transit Service is fully funded by the Government of Ontario's Community Transportation Grant Program, which concludes on March 31st, 2025. The county has been informed that CT recipients now have the option to extend the program for an additional year if they have not used their full allocation by the March 2025. This one-time extension does not include additional funding, and recipients are required to use any remaining funds from their existing allocation. Beyond that, the expectation is that communities explore alternative funding sources, including the gas tax program and the Ontario Transit Investment Fund, OTIF, as it's referred to. I want to point out that the current gas tax funding formula provides limited financial support for our rural transit systems. While Middlesex County is actively exploring OTIF as a potential funding source, the funding is highly competitive and has limited availability, with only $5 million in annual funding available across the entire province. Additionally, there is uncertainty regarding both the timing and the likelihood of securing this funding prior to March 31st, 2025, which could result in potential service disruptions or cancellations. The next part is around legislation. I'm not going to go into that. If you look at the statistics, I'm very excited to say that I think it really does show our success. If you look at 2020, and yes, we did launch our community transit program right in the middle of the pandemic. But in 2020, it's fairly low, but if we look at where we're projecting for 2024 and 2025, you can see that huge increase. I will comment that ridership has increased by about 647% from 2022 to 2024. So I think that is quite an achievement and definitely shows that the demand is out there for this transit service. Pressures, kind of as I've indicated, Middlesex County Connect Intercommunity Transit is fully funded by the Government of Ontario's Community Transportation Grant Program, which ends on March 31st, 2025. I will point out that we have already told the ministry that we are interested in expanding because we did have some money that we were able to carry forward to run this program a little longer in 2025. We came to council recently in regards to federal funding that we did receive. It was a federal grant in order that we could review our entire community transportation program. So we are going to be starting underway with that currently. We did an RFP for a consultant. We are waiting to hear back from the information from the consultant in regards to where the program needs to go, what the funding would look like, and what partners we need. I guess at this point, I'm not going to go through all the other pieces. However, I'd like to point out partnerships because I think it is really important. When we introduced our new route, Route 3, it, I think, really opens up Middlesex County to a huge opportunity. And that is linking Middlesex County, not only with the City of London, but also the City of St. Thomas and all of the significant growth that we are going to be seeing happening there. We're really excited to see the report that we get back from the consultant in regards to reviewing our system and what it looks like. So at this time, you're going to notice I haven't asked Middlesex County for any additional dollars because at this point, we are really waiting to see what that report looks like. We are still trying to advocate with the province of Ontario for additional funding, and we will also apply for the OTIF funding for an existing route, at least to get us till the end of March 2026, so we can complete a full year. So we are in the process of doing that right now. I will say, again, the partnerships, especially with the City of London and St. Thomas, have been very vital as we move forward with that. They are very interested in supporting this new route because they both can see the benefit and they also see the demand and the increase in ridership. And I think that alone proves that I'm really hoping that we can engage the provincial government with that because the provincial government did a huge investment to that region. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to allow you to open up to questions. And I have Kara here too, because clearly community transportation is an economic tool as well. It's very important. And Kara and I work really closely on community transportation because we understand its value to our community. So we're open to answer any questions that you may have.
Great. Questions?
We don't, I know Stratford on a separate thing from Lambton through. Now we as a county, do we contribute anything to that at all?
Through the chair to the committee member, no, we do not. They are, again, the same thing. They are totally funded from the ministry through the CT funding.
It's the same thing we have at the north end. It's the Huron transportation. That are running the same type, not the same type, but I mean, they're running road.
The chair to the budget committee members, you are absolutely correct. All of those currently are funded by the ministry through community transportation grant. Now you are going to start to see some communities already out there during the budget process, and if they don't have any carry forward money, some of them are already opting to cancel their program effective March 2025. We are fortunate that we don't have to shut down right on March 2025 because we do have some carry forward dollars available. However, you're going to hear that from some communities around you.
Kathy?
Just on that, since we have Huron Shores comes through Lucan as well as Middlesex County Connect. So we have two buses that come through Lucan, but it's funny because Lambton Shores is going to come to Lucan just to ask us for money because if they want to see if we want the stop to continue through our community, then they're going to ask for an investment. Back to the discussion that we had before lunch. said about economic development. So that is one area where SCORE has been trying to advocate on behalf of all of the transportation programs that are out there. I will say, and this could be information when you're going back to the province and looking for other buckets of money. So at AMO, AMO was in August, SCORE presented to economic development. So, and presented directly to Minister Fideli and talked about transportation. And that minister was unaware of this program. And when you talk about the ties to community transportation and economic development, I mean, there's a synergy right there. And it was like the statistics that were being presented, that SCORE was presenting about these community transportation routes. And, you know, and then they went on to whatever else they were presenting, and all of the question, what are you, what program are you talking about? No idea. And there was a girl, a staffer, and she was originally from Lambton Shores, and she said, well, I always wondered what that bus was all about when I come back and visit my family. So, you know, when you talk about like advocating to the province, it goes back when we say good roads, like it doesn't matter where the money comes from. Like it could come from any ministry. But that's where you got to kind of find those synergies, right? And economic development, and especially with what's happening in St. Thomas, like they should be a partner in this, like without question, right?
I think to your point about another transportation coming to you for money, we've already been approached.
Yeah.
It's just a comment, it's really not budget related, but the whole point, I mean, when you look at the budgets for large urban and big cities, the proportion of their budget for transportation that's funded, this is just for my own bee, my bonnet in terms of the for rural caucus at EMO. It's like, okay, so what are you going to cough up the dollars? Because the dollars are going to be even more substantial in rural Ontario when you consider distances and density. And I mean, if we want to have economic development, if we want to have our kids going to certain programs in the village, I'm not saying we need to run a bus every 15 minutes, but there has to be a consistent service that people can depend on, and whatever that looks, and integrated. I mean, we need the same signage at the boundary of Middlesex and Lambton and Huron, right? So that, and the connections, it needs to be integrated. So blah, blah, blah.
If I could, Chair, through to the Budget Committee members, I just want to harken back to some of the discussion we were having previous to lunch with respect to, you know, what groups are really advocating for this as well. I just want to advise the group that I have had meetings with Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, specific to some members of the CT group, to talk about the benefit to the region as a whole, and looking at transportation from that, you know, eagle eye view. I think it's exceptionally important. As Cindy did a phenomenal job in working within the funding constraints that were afforded to us at the time, and working within the program considerations, the establishment of some of these routes was particular more to the funding opportunity available than it was necessarily particular to the ongoing and growing needs of our community. So to the benefit of the county, I think the evaluation procedure that we're going through is going to be of utmost importance, and I'm really excited about that, the fact that we have been able to achieve that funding in order to be able to properly evaluate. As to Cindy's point, we are going to apply for the OTIF to at least to try to provide some sustainability for the fiscal year of the province through till when we can properly evaluate all of the routes that are impacting our communities. And we have gone to the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus as part of the Economic Development Group to have specific conversations with respect to the impact of not only on our economic development, but also the impact of the particular funding model that is being afforded to us currently, and to evaluate that, and some of those efforts are to look at the evaluation of that. Just
Other questions, comments?
Well,
Sue?
one comment I have is, earlier this morning, we were not early this morning, but prior to lunch, we talked about, our economic development and increasing our industrial base and whatnot. Well, it's fine to do all that, but, there's a workforce component to that as well. And depending on what sort of industries will be brought in, it depends on what the pay scale is to what you're gonna attract, and perhaps those people need transportation as well, right? So, the Amazon plant's another example.
Any other questions or comments? Nothing there? Okay, so we need to, moved by Michelle, seconded by Ina. I saw your hand go up. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks. Now the next one, unfortunately, we had all these yeses, and now we're getting transportation. We don't have any yeses left.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we have one more item, and it is a large one, and that's transportation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
So we move and replace is what you're saying?
Remove and replace.
Oh, okay.
These sheets.
Oh,
Oh,
he didn't get the chair.
No, I have one more.
I was gonna say, wait a minute. That's you.
So I just distributed an updated roll-up sheet for the transportation budget.
I don't know what that's.
I can tell you, we're in a bit of a transformational period in roads, and certainly had hoped to be a little further ahead by the time budget was submitted, with regards to our comprehensive asset management plan. Some implementation period within our development charges program. But we're having those discussions that are ongoing. So this is a bit of a transformational budget, I'd say, as we're expecting to see those plans and those programs come into full fruition in 2025. So your next transportation budget is likely to look today for our 2026 and beyond. For a high level, so if you're watching online, just to talk about what we do. We have over 1,700 lane kilometers of roads, over 250 structures, bridges and culverts. Again, we do pretty much anything and everything to deal with that infrastructure, whether it's winter maintenance, plowing, sand, salt on the roads, our summer maintenance, maintaining line painting, grass cutting, roadside maintenance, road construction, bridge rehabilitation and replacement. All those programs are generally managed through our in-house staff. We do a number of contracts for large programs like bridge replacements, but we do a large majority of that work in-house thanks to the investment of Middlesex County over the past decades. We also manage emergency management and fire communications and other communications. You see that's one of the big increases in our budget this year. This is around 911 calling. We'll get into detail about that. We'll get to that. And the other thing is we have waste management. So we have a household hazardous waste program in conjunction with the city of London. That program is successful and available to all citizens of Middlesex County at no cost. Just kind of get to the point here about our pressures, what we see, and this is what I'm talking about, where we're going to see some changes in this in the very near future. The charts provided in some of these breakdowns of these numbers have not been updated since 2017 or so, so you're going to see a big change in those numbers when our comprehensive asset management plan is presented to council hopefully in January of next year, not February. Aging infrastructure, we're certainly getting close to a large wave of demands on replacement of many of our bridge and culverts in the county and across the world generally. A lot of this infrastructure was built post World War I or post World War II, which means we're getting to the end of serviceable life of many structures, 7,500 years old. Those create challenges that can't simply be addressed through maintenance and rehabilitation, many structures are going to need replacement. We'll talk about one in particular budget as an earmark for some assistance from other levels of government to help us fund that program. Again, we're always having challenges with funding constraints. Love to have a new revenue source of predictable, stable funding from federal and provincial government. Continue to advocate for that every which way we can. We're seeing huge changes in road safety and how road safety is managed. There's some changes in approach in regards to road safety audits and things that we can do to help promote road safety. Just some of the challenges with driver behavior that are becoming part of our everyday life. And unfortunately, it's having a negative impact on the safety of all of our road users. Challenges with staff and budget limitations. Again, like all departments, I would say that technical staff is extremely hard to come by and retain, and our HR director talked a little bit about that. It's not unique to planning, departments on the roads as well. We see more turnover than we've ever seen with regards to our staffing. We're fortunate to have a good core of people who've been with the county for a number of years, but bringing on new staff is always challenging. Aspects of what we do at the county. And then capital budget pressures, right? Like the number you're seeing here is predicated on what we were seeing in the marketplace a number of years ago, and those numbers have to a level where things we can't maintain a system at the same funding level we've had in the past, especially on capital programming. The cost of building is astronomically expensive to what it was when we first did our first round of asset management. Again, we have some opportunities for advocacy. Again, this sustainable and reliable funding from the levels of government to maintain and sort of bridge that infrastructure gap that we're all seeing in all of our municipalities. Make sure we maintain our infrastructure in a state of repair that's safe and accessible for use for all road users. We have a number of large-scale bridge replacements that are coming up in the very near future that are going to be challenging for us to deal with. We have some ideas on how to do that from a funding perspective, but certainly love to see other levels of government come to the table to help us with that. It's going to be a need for everyone around the province and across Canada in the next 5 to 10 years. And then technological changes, we're trying still to utilize digitization. We talk a lot of those requests that, but we're still trying to move towards digital permitting, sort of a one window approach for our businesses and residents to use to connect with the county for all needs of road-related permitting. And the shift from combustion engines to electric vehicles is going to pose a particular challenge for us in the future. It's a slow challenge, it's a slow build, but we're certainly trying to work towards creating a network that residents and visitors in Middlesex County have a reliable and accessible charging network which doesn't exist in our county right now in a meaningful way. That does dovetail a bit to what we talked about today with economic development, but something we're mindful of when we're talking about updating facilities and moving forward across the county to help deal with that infrastructure. With that, I'm going to just go over at a high level where we're at with regards to the budget variance from 2024 to 2025. Those pages were provided to you. I can talk in detail about any number, but from a high level, just highlight a few things that have changed since the first iteration.
Chris, if I can, these are the new pages you just handed us, right?
And Cindy will say all the things we've talked about in the last couple of days, we're going to implement that into the budget roll-up numbers in order to give a better picture for the committee to discuss when we get into those discussions next week before we get updating the budget, making some real decisions about spending. You'll see the second line of revenues transferred from reserves. We've been endeavoring to reduce our capital reserve down to an acceptable level, and I think we're right on the margin of that now, such that an additional transfer from reserves from capital reserves would put us in a position where we may be challenged with regards to being able to react to funding opportunities from the levels of government. We would have to have money on hand for some of those. That would be the big one why we would have some certain levels of reserves, but also in order for us to be nimble with regards to dealing with catastrophe failures for us to do that. The number you see under 2025, we'll talk a little bit about this, is funding that's going to come from our development charges reserve. We don't have any development charge reserve as of today, but we anticipate we are going to collect a level of development charges in 2025. Probably not to the level you're seeing here, but close to it, according to our estimates. So you'll see a transfer from reserves of $3,073,452. It's essentially development charge revenues that we're going to use to fund capital program that qualifies for development charge. And then I'll get into what those are when we get into the next couple of pages. We're happy to see a 15% increase in the OSIP funding that we get from the provincial government and a 4% increase in federal gas tax. So it's good to point that out that we are seeing support. We'd love to see more, but we are happy to see support from other levels of government. It's more reliable funding that we get year to year. But we're still looking at about a 6.8% increase in total revenue that we're going to need to cover off our expenditures. I'll note the two big changes in expenditures under operating costs. Road maintenance, we've had many discussions over the years and some offline discussions about what we're doing with regards to winter maintenance. Have gone back and reviewed our annual winter maintenance expenditures over the years. About maybe about 10 years ago, we were in a situation where we were running our winter maintenance reserves into the negatives to be able to fund our program to meet the minimum maintenance standards that's required by municipalities in Ontario to keep our roads to a certain standard. And through a combination of, I would say, some majority due to the milder winter we've been seeing, which is likely related to climate change. My recommendation today is that we're likely overfunding our winter maintenance by the tune of about $500,000. So my recommendation in this budget is to reduce our winter maintenance expenditures by $500,000 a year. We have a healthy winter maintenance reserve. And as I say this, I know we're going to get the heaviest winter we've seen in 10 years, but I still feel that $5 million a year on our plowing and sanding, consulting, winter maintenance line item is likely sufficient for us in 2025. Us to come through close to that budget number with a normal severity of winter weather.
Sorry, maybe.
That's the road maintenance. That's all of our road maintenance costs. Yeah, for the whole year for everything. Of that 8 million, 5 million of that is winter maintenance. So I'm recommending we reduce that by $500,000 to bring it down. It's 5.5, excuse me. I'm recommending in 2025 we reduce that to 5 million. Just for your information, over the past 5 years, we've had some pretty light years. In 2023, our actual expenditures on winter maintenance was just north of 4 million. In 2024, and again, this doesn't count the last week, which is probably going to push us up. We're probably going to get close to 4.4, 4.5 by the end of this year, depending on what happens in the next 2 weeks. So we are in good shape. And our winter maintenance reserve is now just north of 5 million. It was $1 million in the red in 2017. So we've invested. There's money in the reserves that will help push us through if we have severe weather. So I'm going to recommend we reset back to 5 million and watch over the next few years and make adjustments as we go forward. Again, climate change is changing a lot of things we do. It's making some things way more expensive, but the milder weather is certainly making it a little bit less of an impact on the side.
Chris, can I ask a question on that? Is there the warmer weather, but we also get into some heavier rains, it seems. Is there a negative impact to our roads system with that change?
To the chair, yes, indeed. And you'll see some of our municipal drain projects that are listed in our capital program certainly are well in excess of what we were spending on municipal drainage 4 or 5 years ago. So I'll talk about these projects. The other big increase you'll see, it's about $350,000 a year. That's on our emergency planning, fire, and 911. Over 300,000 of that is the new cost to us to provide 911 call answering service. Previously supplied to us from the City of London. Very, very generous agreement rate that the City of London Police Services is no longer prepared to provide to the County of Middlesex. So we are in a partnership with Stratford Caradoc Police Services in conjunction with their fire dispatch services already provided to the county. Contract with them. Two contracts are going to expire at the same time, so we'll be able to bring those together into a new contract to provide all the services. Single service provider, and I can tell you it's so far things have really operated very smoothly. They are moving forward to get to NG 911, which provides an enhanced level of service for call response for our emergency services. But certainly, just on the fire dispatch side, a phone call for a fire, a 911 call to a fire in Middlesex County, just the same person answers the phone and directly put you through, dispatch that event. So we're seeing some improvements in response time. Of course, there are a number of challenges, but we've been very, very happy with the service provided to date. It's just recent, but it's been going very, very well. Stratford Caradoc Police Services and the staff there have been very responsive to the county, providing a top level of service. So that's the big increase on that side. There's also included in there some improvements to our fire radio repeater system. The county council funded back in 2008, I believe, 2004, but that system's been supplied through the county levy to all of our fire departments to provide for clear communication across the county. Like any computer, software, hardware, things are aging out, so we are endeavoring into a program to start to replace some of our antennas, some of our backup systems across the county over the next 5 years to bring that system up to date and just provide a more reliable system. One of the big advantages of those changes allow us to troubleshoot communication issues remotely. So very recently, staff had to attend the actual site and troubleshoot some of these things, which you can imagine when it can be a challenge. So now that we can do more of that stuff remotely, that really helped us with keeping the system up and running. We'll get into the programs and what's happening with the transfers to road capital, but see there's an increase in the road side, and last year we had a bit of a blip in that we're again trying to reallocate some of the monies that was set aside for some of these projects within the year, so we had an ability to reduce 1 year reduction in the levy required to provide capital improvements to roads to keep us up to date with regards to our rehabilitation program to maintain our roads in their current state of repair. This certainly will not get us there, and there will certainly be challenges when we talk about asset management in 2025 and 2026 program. But the program that I put before you today should be sufficient for 2025 to close to meeting what we're expecting to do with regards to the longevity of our road system. And the transfer to bridge capital, again, we'll see a bit of a different breakdown of this when we start implementing the next stages of our comprehensive asset management plan. We anticipate we install about 2 new traffic signals a year across the county of Middlesex. This year we have 2 more intersections to count, but to date we don't have any signals warranted in the county for 2025. So I've taken those out of my capital program. There was earmarks for those because we're budgeting a little bit earlier than normal. We hadn't completed our analysis this fall. Of course, the weather last week kind of slowed us down again, but from everything I've been provided by my staff, I don't believe we'll have any new traffic signals to install next year. We'll still be completing the ones that we've already allocated funds to. There's 3 more I think we still have to finish off from previous years, but we won't be recommending the installation of any new traffic signals in 2025. So if you look at the second page of the information provided to you, I just wanted to show you what we're planning to do next year. I apologize that facilities capital should be maintain at 200,000, 795, and you'll see will come out of our asset management plan to talk about funding our facilities capital, but it's premature to jump that number up in this current budget without having that background information received by council. So that's going to be down to $200,000 again next year. We're not doing in-house construction next year. We're finishing off a project for Adelaide Metcalf. We did half last year. We're doing the rest next year with the Swift County Forces. This is a great example of partnership between the county and local municipality. Certainly provides cost savings for the project. Remember, committee members here have seen the results of the first half of that project. I think it's been well received by the residents of Adelaide Metcalf and others who use that road. Our other program here, you can see we tallied up on the bottom of 75 lane kilometers for this next year on paving. We've deferred the parking drive project for a year. That'll get put into the 2026 budget. 75 lane kilometers, if you look at that, extrapolate that, that means roads in Middlesex County, if that's the rate of repair we're completing our program with, we recommend once every 18 years to have our roads paved. Last year we went to once every 20. This is about once every 23 years. You'll see the roads getting paved in the county at that rate. The other thing that's going to change next year is we're in the middle of our county road and bridge assumption study, and if we pick up more roads, I anticipate we likely will. That number will also be shown through our asset management. It's an asset management plan, but that goes in conjunction with our recommended program, what we're seeing on the longevity of our road network. We had a project, we're finishing off around about next year, about $2 million left to finish that project. We have another project in Town Center that we're finishing off with regard to some servicing paving. We did include a section of King Street in Thorndale. Town Center informed me yesterday that project's deferred until 2026, so we deferred that as well. And we anticipated that about $700,000 for that program. So our roads capital is down from the previous supply number of $700,000 from $14 million to $13 million. Certainly talk about any of those specific projects in that program. And then just to finish off, bridges and special projects, we kind of lump everything together. It's sort of the way we've had a format for our budget that's going to change next year with our development charges program coming, comprehensive asset management program. You can see a list of projects that we anticipate in our program for next year. The Oak Road Bridge was tendered out late in 2024. That program will go next year, and then the Oak Road Bridge is one that we've been working on for a little while. That's planned for construction next year. Those two have been tendered out to a third party for construction. The first three are projects we will undertake with in-house staff. These are bridge rehabilitation programs. You can see we pulled Traffic Signal A and Traffic Signal B out of the program. That was $1 million in savings there. And then you can see these drain improvements. As per the chair's question, we are seeing more and more demands. We saw the severity of the with that severe flood, and this will not eliminate the problem. It will help to rectify some of the issues we were seeing for COVID. But just the size and as we're trying now to include in some of these systems in order to avoid some of those flooding events. Those are big challenges. And the same with our municipal drain number. That's going up. We're getting more and more requests for municipal drains. So we're trying to keep up with those. We've been overspending that number for many years. So that 300,000 will get spent. That's confident. It's a small increase from last year, 1%. The other one you'll see that it doesn't have a number associated with is the Thorndale Bridge. We made application under the Housing Enabling, HECS is the acronym for the fund. It's a $16.2 million project. For funding, we need to find $8 million to supply our half of that program. We'll have a conversation, said we'll consider debt financing for our half. That's likely the way we put half of it funded. But I wanted to include that in the budget just to let the council know. That's a project that could happen if we're successful in our funding application. Just so the public knows it, this committee knows it. it's on our radar. That bridge needs to be replaced before 2028. If we don't get funding, that's going to be a significant impact on our capital program. And again, kind of collectively, Cindy, Paul, and Bill, and myself, we talked about debt financing. How we debt finance big replacement projects. It's like sort of the perfect thing to be using debt for. I think we've got a good development charges bylaw program that's coming into effect next year. That's really going to help us deal with things like expansions around traffic signals, those sorts of issues, turning lanes, all those other improvements. And then you can see more comprehensive detailing of our asset management plan across the board, especially around our facilities and equipment. Great job with equipment. And facilities need some work, which is evidenced by some of the research we've been doing on that side. So, that, Mr. Chair, it's a lot. I'm probably talking too fast, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay.
Just a quick, on the last page, Kamoka Bridge, Kamoka Road Bridge.
That's,
Just south of Beakermont, or you talking
that's
about
right.
not
Correct. Yeah,
Thames
just south of
River?
Egremont. Yeah, that's,
Okay.
we're doing steel, blasting, recoating the structural steel, replacing the bridge bearings that were some seized up over the years, and doing some other concrete repairs on that structure.
Didn't think it was the Thames River one, because that was on, but that was a few years back.
That was not long ago.
I thought this is a repair, or this is
This
a
is a
redo.
repair of another bridge.
Okay, thank you, Carmen.
Sue,
Chair, the budget amount for the emergency planning is 1.25.
Yep.
So, when does the contract come up to start for it?
We're another 3 years away,
Oh, good.
3 or 4 years away, so that's,
Okay, so
that's,
that extra 348 isn't working. It's not.
no, that's a new contract and upgrades. It's a new contract for 911 call answering services around $300,000 a year. We already pay
Oh, okay.
300 something for fire dispatch services. They're two separate contracts, so we'll likely have one contract with for about 600,000, I would assume, in 3 or 4 years from now, or whatever it estimates for CPI or whatever. We'll have a new contract that combines those two. They've got a staff, they've got a lot of staff there now to cover our needs. There was quite enough number of staff in the city of London for the services that's been focused around.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. I'm just trying to figure out where, how much.
Yeah,
If
that,
we have exposure, like, but it's 3 more years.
yeah, that blip will stay, so we won't see big increases like that year to year on that emergency services side. That's just the 1 year to bring that new contract in for that call service. Yeah.
go ahead.
Couple things. Did you not report on the City of London agreement a couple of meetings ago? And was there not an increase of what we were getting from them? City of London, yeah, that agreement,
Miss Black?
yeah, like the shared roads or
Well, it's
or whatever.
Bill's probably smiling, although we can't see annexation compensation, we like to call it. It's based on a calculation, some of you might know more about the particulars that calculate that. You can see it goes up and down, it was 1.29 million in 2023, 1.7 million in 2024. We've kind of set it at a number, so we're not trying to overshoot too much. It's not a direct sort of year based on population, or there's a couple of factors that affect what that number is. It's an up and down over the number of years.
And then again, like just with the DCs, I'm just concerned why there isn't a line item that says DC. I mean,
It'll be changed in the update. We're gonna change that from transfer reserves. There'll be another line that's development charge funding. I still have room to put into that spreadsheets. When you see the updated spreadsheets that are gonna come out next week, so you guys time to put those together, there'll be another revenue line. That's development charge revenue line, and that will go into fund against the capital programs that qualify for development charges.
But I think from a budgeting, wouldn't it be more realistic, that's gonna be a lagging thing
Yeah.
every year, because you're not gonna know if you're billing twice to municipalities. Really, and you always have the year under your belt for that to kick in, so.
well, I think that's the thing, like you're always having to pay,
Yeah, you're kind of,
right, to get it back.
Through Mr. Chair, we're not gonna be billing municipalities municipalities.
No, I like to, I just wrong.
Yeah.
Every minute.
Yeah,
So-
Sorry, sorry.
The local
That was
municipalities
sad.
are really upset.
That was
But we've done conservative estimates that this year, based on the updated DC charge, 2.5 to 3.2 million is a realistic based on a 5-year historic growth trend and our growth projections and the composite of buildings being built in the local municipalities. So that's where the fee for that money.
And you've got it all worked out with the local municipalities as to how that's all collected and everybody knows what they're doing and.
We Mr. Chair, yeah, so we actually had great meetings with the CBO group and then subsequently the directors of finance or finance group, and then went back and I was in Middlesex Center because they kind of coordinate everything to be great. And what we've done is like a really permissive living policy that will basically allow finance from the locals to report and reconcile up to the county twice a year, so trying to reduce administrative burden. And the policy is basically like, we'll accept any form of reporting that you're comfortable with, as long as it has like these 5 data points. And then sort of the administration of cleaning that up will be on our end. And then also Arnie and Wayne have reached out to Cloud Permit to see if we can make some modifications within Cloud Permit to more easily track data there. And then if there's anyone who doesn't have any of those abilities, we're also sending over just like a rudimentary linked Excel spreadsheet for manual tracking. So it's going to be a living process. There's going to be some headaches, but it's really been a collaborative effort, and we'll continue to revise that as we go forward.
And then just with asset management and everything, all the pressure's been put on asset management. Like, is council going to get like the detailed asset management plan and a capital forecast for the next 10 years, and so that we can see what it is that we're.
Yeah, through the chair, I mean, you're gonna see the asset management plan has the numbers in that have been calculated through our updated unit costs. We have an updated bridge infrastructure study that was put back to Dillon Consulting to give us updated numbers on what they're seeing in the marketplace for costs of maintaining our bridge infrastructure. We had, what's the company that the facilities review?
We have facilities audits by an engineer company.
Yeah, I forget what the name is. They did our facilities audits, which is a big impact to us. We've been sort of underfunding our facilities. So that will be presented. And then after that's presented, we'll have another presentation from myself, my team, about our 10-year capital program. So it'll be within that asset management program. Certainly don't expect to be able to spend what we need to meet that asset management program. We'll have a strategy that talks to council, gives options with how close do we want to get, can we get there, how long is it going to take us to get there, and then what are the impacts on our capital program.
And then I assume that's all coming after budget.
Yes, that's not ready to go yet.
And then are these going to be updated
Yes.
to coordinate with this? Okay. And then just the question with the asset management. So our software's all been updated to reflect the asset management plan that we're
What
using
will
that.
be once it's accepted by council.
Okay. We'll use that
Yep.
software to its capacity.
Yeah, we'll still be able to use get those charts and make all that, those kind of things. So people can educate the public, can look and see how we're doing, what we're spending versus how our infrastructure is performing, and then we can make adjustments to that as we see how our programs have been working, right? We've been investing for decades in recycling asphalt, and it's been helping us keep our arterial road network in better shape for longer. So getting from that 18 to maybe to 22 or 24 years is an aspirational goal for us. We're getting closer to that. But again, it's making sure we have the performance measures there so we see where we are, where we've been, and where we should be going in the future. And then having that measurable asset management side to let us know how we're getting there. And then of course we can still have PSAP side, which is more of the financial side, to make sure we're balancing with regards to asset retirements and replacements and all those sorts of things as well. So I always think there's sort of 3 things that we're working on, and thanks to Paul and his team for the sort of stick handling, and parts of my team for stick handling the asset management study. my team for helping, and myself for doing the capital programming, to how we fit into that asset management study, and then Cindy and your team for the financial side.
The team's a pain, so Sue, you had your hand up and then.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm remembering correctly, but did last year for the budget committee, did we not, how we landed on DC conversation was because we had a schedule that showed, the bridges that were gonna need to be replaced and all that, so that might be useful. Before,
I'm sure it's not like any other municipality. And but that information is constantly getting updated with your
Absolutely.
asset management plan, but also your studies for bridges and roads and
I-
It's just a bit of a clarity question. Sure. Are we gonna adjust any policies to make sure that we're funding the way, like, are we gonna establish certain guidelines as minimums? Because that requirement is like this, when we hit those peak years, are we going to have targeted minimum reserves to, that's all gonna come to in terms of, yeah, okay, that's what I was
Oh,
wondering.
yeah.
Looking forward to that.
I do remember when we were struggling to try to get $4.5 million in reserves for the bridges.
Yeah.
It was a struggle to get it up to that point. I do, that was a conversation.
It's still gonna be a struggle. I don't want anybody to think it's gonna be easy. The
No.
numbers that are gonna come out are not gonna be pretty. We understand there's a huge, especially on the structure side, you guys have heard me preach on this one before, we're gonna have big demands. Everyone's gonna have big demands. We're seeing across the board. So that's gonna be our big impact. The facilities is gonna be relatively small in scope compared to that, but there's gonna be an impact.
So I have a question on finance, debt finance, on some of these projects. Are we coming up with one formula? Or is it going to be, look at each project, is this a candidate for debt finance? Like, because of I assume the fact if it's a 75-year,
Right.
lifespan, that's a good indicator to help towards that. But is it gonna be each project?
Yeah, it's exactly that, as you say, Mr. Chair. So debt financing works well for new infrastructure. So if we're putting in a new facility, if we're building a new road or a new bridge. So if it's new infrastructure, that works well. If it's rehabilitation for large capital projects, like the $60 million bridge replacement, that works really well for debt financing. We are looking at big road projects. If we do another roundabout somewhere, the roundabout in Kilworth is a $6 million plus project. Those are big projects. We used to finance those with multi-year finance those, build up a capital reserve to fund that program when it came into effect, and then use those funds to build that infrastructure. What we were instructed to do last year through our budget deliberations is to look the other way. So let's look at big infrastructure projects, come to council with recommendations for good candidates for debt financing those projects, and then spread out the debt repayment over a number of years into our capital program. So like a $60 million bridge on a beyond that is significant. We have that in, know what our repayment limit here is, just like $11 million. Our borrowing cap is $400.
That doesn't mean we wanna be there, but that's what.
Well, yes, that's sort of where our, if we have to.
And Brian, Chris should also mention that it is important to remember that interest rates fluctuate and that can change strategy as well. So we're about to experience another drop. And Chris, you just maybe want to talk about that too, because that'll be part of the analysis.
Yeah, right now it's, like if interest rates keep dropping, it becomes more attractive to debt finance versus maybe dipping into reserves.
It might just widen the scope of the projects we consider, especially if we can do it over a 20-year cycle. It would widen the scope in this unprecedented time.
Yeah, the cost thresholds change.
Anything else? No other questions? Not today, at least. All right, Cindy.
Just through the chair to the council, I just want to remind that our next budget meeting is on Monday. And then we'll have seen all of the budget in front of you. And then we'll have to decide how to go forward with that. As you know, we need time to digest, think about all of the budgets that put in front of you, and think about if you need individuals to come back and have conversations or changes that you need made. So we will have a discussion on Monday if we think we can wrap it all up, or which I'm probably gonna recommend is that we think about a date into January, where we can have some discussions. And at that time, as I always do on Monday, as Chris just mentioned, I will give you an updated document, the budget recap, to take into account what transportation provided today. And then when we go forward, if we do suggest that we go into a January date, then I come up with different scenarios, as you have in the past, to give you, if you want to add this, you want to take away this, I give you a new budget recap that kind of shows you those changes and what that impact is on your tax rate.
Go ahead.
Cindy, what's the room we have for borrowing at the county here too?
I'll have to confirm that, but we
Okay.
have a lot of room for our borrowing.
Yeah.
I always do that annually when I.
Yeah, I don't have a number in my head, and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I mean, debt financing
Well, I
is,
think-
yeah.
Sorry, we kind of mentioned that earlier this week, and you said, I think, like our repayment level is like 28 million, so.
Our annual repayment cap
Annual-
is 11 point something million, but our actual capital borrowing over so many years, like 128
Yeah,
million.
Okay, so we got
Something like
We
that.
have lots of room.
Yeah, I was just
Awesome.
wondering, because I was thinking, if we want to take advantage of low rates, we've got lots of room right now where we can switch
Yeah.
stuff in.
And I think our only debt repayment right now is for the lodge.
Lodge, okay,
It's
thank
getting
you.
near the end.
When
Through
did,
the
yeah,
chair, you are correct, and we are getting, near the end, I think we have a year left.
1 year left?
Oh, wow.
Okay, I was wondering.
Just in time to build
I'll confirm that on Monday, but yeah, I
Congrats.
think it's only about a year or so left.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I need a motion for the transportation report. Sue and Ina, all in favor? Carrie? All right, thanks for that. And is there anything else we recap that we need for today? I know we're here Monday morning again.
Yeah,
When we do legal,
so Monday morning is just a reminder, our next budget meeting starts at 9 o'clock on Monday. And we will be going through the final piece, which is the admin budget and the reserve and reserve funds. And then at the end of Monday, you have seen all of the budgets, they've been presented in front of you. And then we can decide how we move forward, what our next steps are. I'm probably gonna suggest that we think about a date into maybe about the second week or so in January, the 13th, 14th, that we can get together. And I've already had some conversations with the CIO as well about that. So.
Anything else?
oh, for clarity, we are gonna hear from legal services on Monday.
Yes,
So no, some of them didn't.
because Friday's schedule goes on Monday as well.
No, I was just gonna get rid of this.
Nothing else? Move to adjourn? Sue, Ina?